So let's take a look at team stats overall. I did after the Panthers game. I think I did a progress report of sorts, looking at the team stats through 10 games for 2024 versus 2023 and 2022, and it was like, well, not a whole lot of improvement. I mean, from 2023, yes, there was uh, improvement, and then from 2022, in certain categories there was some improvement, but overall it's like it's not the kind of, if you're looking at year by year, we improving year after year over year. No, there's not a lot of year over year improvement. Let's get into the recap by team stats. We'll start with the offense. 12th in accepted penalties, 12th in most turnovers, 12th in interceptions, and 11th most fumbles lost. So you can say that the quarterback is the reason. The quarterback position is the reason why we are where we are. It's not Brian Dable's fault. It's the quarterback. Look who he has to work with. Da-da-da-da. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. To me, if you're a quarterback guru, quote unquote, like Kevin O'Connell, that's a QB whisperer. That's a guy who can take a quarterback who is, if you're at the NFL level, he can take that quarterback and he can elevate you. Brian Dable has been. What have you seen that has made you think that he's elevated quarterbacks? You're gonna give all of Tommy DeVito's success. You're gonna attribute that to Brian Dable. Tyrod Taylor's success. You're gonna attribute it to Brian Dable. What about Daniel Jones' regression? What about the fact that Drew Lock, coming off a pretty decent season with the Seahawks in which he beat the friggin' Eagles, comes here and he just gets the bed? And so if you're saying the quarterback away, fine. Penalties, not all those penalties are on the quarterback. Fumbles lost, a lot of that has to go with ball security, which, I mean, like Tyrone Tracy Jr., it's like wild that he still has a fumble issue that has to be a top priority in the offseason. Why weren't you working on that during the season? Why isn't it like resonating and getting traction? The penalties, man. Why are there so many penalties? Illegal shift, illegal motion, penalties that are just like understandable in the first part of the season, maybe, but in the second half of the season, why is that still happening? Illegal shift, illegal motion, illegal formation, like it's just like this is like basic. Sixth lowest third down percentage, tied for the fourth fewest first downs, the third fewest total yards gained and yards per play at 4.7 yards per play. Second fewest total points scored. Second to last in scoring percentage at 27.9%. That means that 27.9% of drives are ending in an offensive score. And they were second to last in expected points contributed overall, minus 82.92. But this guy he's playing. Brian Dable's calling the plays. He's a QB guru. So you're telling me that like everything else is kosher on the offense? Like everything else is working except the quarterback? I just don't buy that. Second fewest total touchdowns scored, 0 fourth quarters comebacks, and 0 game-winning drives. No other team had that stat. I looked at it. It was like, wow, we didn't have 1 fourth quarter comeback. We didn't have 1 game-winning drive. Passing offense tied for the 7th most sacks allowed. Now, sacks allowed, there's now this narrative that it's not always on the, John Gruden has said it, that sacks is a deceptive stat because it's not really reflective or resembles of emblematic of the offensive line's performance, because he puts it on the quarterback. The quarterback could be running it, scrambling into sacks, running into sacks, allowing sacks to happen, not getting rid of the ball, blah, blah, blah. We saw that a lot with Tommy DeVito. But we also had Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones, who are pretty well, usually better. I mean, Daniel Jones not this season in particular, but at least Tyrod Taylor was a guy that could get away from the rush or at least throw the ball away. So the fact that we upgraded our offensive line, most improved, congratulations, here's your friggin' blue ribbon. And we're still tied for 7th most sacks allowed. Like, yeah, I guess that, I mean, again, Tommy DeVito, two starts, getting sacked like crazy. Drew Lock unable to avoid the rush, unable to get rid of the ball. Daniel Jones running into sacks. So is it an offensive line issue? Is it a quarterback issue? It's both. really. I mean, we had 10 different offensive line combinations after the Eagles game. 10 different offensive line combinations. I cannot be any more jealous of teams that have an offensive line that can stay together for an entire season and be healthy. It's just remarkable. And even like, and so we talk about injuries and my guess is that when Dable and Shane go to Mara and they had their conversation on Friday afternoon before the Eagles game, that they're just saying, oh, injuries, injuries, Andrew Thomas injured, Runyon injured, and it's just like, okay. A lot of these injuries came like after we were eliminated from the playoffs, so I don't think you can really use injuries as your excuse anymore. But yeah, I mean, we're rolling out guys like Hubbard, Tyree Phillips, Stinney, Kubas. Like, it's just, So, yeah, okay, we get a better quarterback like a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Will they be able to evade the rush and lower that number? Sure. But you still have to – it's not like the offensive line is fixed. You absolutely 1,000% need to have an insurance policy for Andrew Thomas. You can no longer go – if they go into this goddamn season in 2025 without addressing offensive tackle, you don't need to tune in. You don't need to tune in because Andrew Thomas can't. That's not. He's plan A. Your plan B for 2022 sucked. Your plan B for 2023 sucked. Your plan B for 2024 sucked. Is Illuminor your plan B? Evan Neal is not your plan C. Plan B, plan C. Like, there. What is the plan? If the plan, I mean, Mara, I don't know. John Mara has to question Joe Shane about how he's addressed the offensive line. He has to say, you didn't draft anyone. Why didn't you draft anyone? Josh Azudu stinks. Marcus McKeithen not on the team. John Michael Schmidt's not great. Why aren't you drafting offensive linemen? It's great that you put a Band-Aid on it in free agency, but those contracts are up next year and the year after. What is your plan for this season, next season, and the following season to address the offensive line? Because they're just going to keep doing this, Mr. Mara. Every time Andrew Thomas goes down for the season, they'll be like, well, there goes the neighborhood. And it's like, no. Look at the Chiefs. Look at the Bengals. Look at every other playoff team that has lost offensive linemen and still is able to operate and perform and play well and win. It's just unreal, man. Unreal. Lowest passing yards, despite having the 9th most attempts. 3rd lowest net yards per pass attempt and 3rd lowest QB rating. 13 of the top 14 teams by QB rating are in the playoffs. The only 2 teams not amongst that list are the Chiefs and Texans, if you can believe that. Yes, Patrick Mahomes and CJ Stroud. So, yes, we do need a quarterback. Is the quarterback gonna be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward? And that's the guy that's gonna, I'm not arguing that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward aren't better than Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. That's not my argument. My argument is you're gonna spend top draft capital on a guy that will be maybe an average quarterback. Like, it's just not a franchise quarterback that is going to take you to the playoffs and take you to the Super Bowl. So it's like, instead of going 3-14 or 4-13 or 6-11, we go 7-10. Like, I just don't think you're going to get and is that why are it's so frustrating. Passing offense had -50 expected points contributed. We had the fewest receiving touchdowns, and we were dead last in passing touchdowns and touchdown percentage, yards per completion, and red zone percentage. So for as much as Daniel Jones sucks, or everyone claims he sucks, and sure, he sucks, how come we got him? How come we were winning in 2022 and scoring in the red zone in 2022? Why was that happening and it didn't happen in 2023 and 2024? Why? So that's passing offense was dreadful. The rushing offense was below average. It wasn't the worst. We were 18th and lower 18th, 18th or lower in pretty much all rushing categories. We had the ninth most total fumbles, and minus 8.4 expected points contributed. And, you know, we kind of gave up on the run a lot, I thought, throughout most of the season. And that's has to go with the fact that we got down. You know, we get down multiple scores. We feel like we have to throw every down, and so we can't run. In the games where it was close and we're able to stick with the run, you could see that it actually performs well and does well. So that's a combination of not capitalizing on third down and getting third downs and converting third downs, not getting into the red zone, and your defense not being able to keep it close, I guess. I don't know. So that's the offense. Defense, 10th in missed tackles. So that's a big issue. I don't know how they're addressing it. I mean, you watch Deonte Banks go for a tackle, and it's like it's like watching Deion Sanders in a contract year. Like he's just no, thank you, no, thank you, sir. And yet, but Deonte Banks is not Deion Sanders. So that's the part that sucks. It's like you can do that kind of if you're getting passes defended and you're intercepting balls and like they can't throw on you and you're Pro Bowl. You can't really do it when you're like, I don't know, middle of the pack or worse in terms of your rankings. Ninth, guess who's number one in missed tackles? The Indianapolis Colts. Oh boy, you Colts. The defense ranked ninth in the most total yards allowed, ninth lowest expected points contributed, eighth highest yards per play. The Rams and Lions actually allowed higher, but yet they have explosive offenses that can put up a ton of points, so it's like they can get away with it. Also, the Lions, and I guess the Rams have had a ridiculous rash of injuries. Weird that we can use injuries as an excuse for so many losses and the Lions and Rams can't. We had the fifth. Their defense had the fifth fewest takeaways, the fifth lowest turnover percentage, and they were tied for. But yet, despite all that, this is the stat that just really it just throws me for a loop. We were tied for the third most tackles for loss. I don't get it, and I'm not going to try and get it. I'm not even going to try and think about it. Our passing defense, sixth lowest expected points contributed. We were, and here's another stat that's kind of an eye opener. Kind of like, whoa, that goes against the narrative. 10th in blitz percentage, 25.3%. Now, I'd love to see how that percentage, a game by game percentage, because I feel like once it feels like we didn't really do it a ton in the first half of the season. Then once like the playoffs were out of the possibility, we were eliminated from playoff contention. It feels like someone went to Bo and was like, you know what? Who gives a shit? Just blitz. But despite being 10th in blitz percentage, we were below average in hurry percentage, QB knockdown percentage, pressures, and pressure percentage. But we were 7th in total sacks. We were first in total sacks through the first 10 games. I think we had something like 35, almost 40, and then we ended up with 40 something. So over the last 7 games, I think we had less than 7 sacks, I think. So first 10, you're averaging almost 3 or 4 sacks a game. Last 7, you're averaging 1 or less. Now, Dexter Lawrence goes down for the season. That puts a huge chunk into things. But yet, you got Kayvon Thibodeau back. You still have Brian Burns. Tied for fifth in the highest net yards per pass attempt at 6.5. We allowed the third highest QB rating at 103.1. But we were third in sack percentage. Interceptions, which is amazing. There's a team that's worse than us at getting interceptions, and it's the Cleveland Browns, if you can believe that. A team that had like possibly the top defense in the league last season. And this year's Giants defense, pass defense, had the second highest, allowed the second highest completion percentage and the second highest yards per attempt. So, as much as I think some defenders of this Giants team and organization and franchise and administration would like to point to the pass defense and be like, well, see, the pass defense ain't so bad. It's like, no, the pass defense actually sucks a lot. But the problem is, like, they suck so much in the first half that the other team gets up by multiple scores and doesn't feel the need to pass it anymore. So like while the totals are probably lower than the league average, it's because we get our kicked in the first half, and then the team just runs the ball down our throat for the rest of the game. Our rushing defense, speaking of, sixth most total rushing yards, the sixth most rushing yards allowed per game, tied for sixth for the most first downs by rush, and tied for fifth highest yards per rush attempt at 4.6 yards per attempt. Again, Joe Shane trades away Leonard Williams. What is his plan to replace him? Now, it's not going to be a one-for-one replacement. I think we all know that. There was some talk, in Hard Knocks the offseason about bringing in a Christian Wilkins, but they ultimately said he's too rich for our blood. And yeah, I do believe that. But then was that your only option? There was no one else available. You're going to stick with Nacho. So, again, who did you draft? Did you draft anyone? No, you didn't. You didn't draft anyone at defensive line. Just like you didn't draft anyone at offensive line. How the hell do you like the process, Mr. Mara? How do you like it? How do you like not addressing the offensive line and the defensive line? You lost a major player along the defensive line via trade. How did you go about replacing him? What was the plan there? Nacho? You thought Nacho was going to be the answer? Offensive line. Andrew Thomas has an injury history. What did you do to... Well, we think Josh Azudu's been working hard. Oh, my God. So that's the defense. Special teams, not great. 28th in all-purpose return yards, 26th in yards per punt return, 13th in yards per kick return, 28th in yards per punt, 23rd in net yards per punt, but 4th in touchback percentage and 3rd in terms of number of inside the 20 punts, and 8th in inside the 20 percentage. So Jamie Gillen, even though the net yards per punt and the total, average yards per punt are not huge, I think I can attribute that to, well, we crossed the 50 and we can't convert and we punt. And so he has the task of like, well, I gotta land this inside the 20, which means it's a 40-yard net. But yet the other team starts at the 5. Not that it matters worth a damn, because our defense blows and ends up allowing a 95-yard touchdown drive almost every time. So, I just rattled off a bunch of team stats. Did I cherry pick? Sure. Was there anything? I mean, there was still, it's not like I cherry picked only the bad stuff. I tried to cherry pick some good stuff too. 3rd in sack percentage. 10th in tackle for loss. Tied for 3rd for most tackles for loss. That's about it. We weren't top 5 or top 10 in a lot of good metrics, good categories.